Al-ilm wal-amal. Jazakumullahu khairan. Knowledge is action. So every ta'aleem, every circle of remembrance, every halaqah, every khutbah, we need to be taking something from it that we can act upon. Because if you knew better, you do better. As my grandma used to say that. My grandma would be proud of you. You knew better, you do better. So the first condition of La ilaha illallah, and why is it so important? Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, whoever said La ilaha illallah once in their lifetime, while meeting the conditions of it, is guaranteed to enter Jannah. And sometimes as people born into Muslim families, we take it for granted. We take it completely for granted, like it's just given that we're Muslim, without knowing the actual conditions that are required for that statement to be true. Yes, you'll make it to Jannah if you say La ilaha illallah once, but you can go outside and teach a parrot how to say La ilaha illallah. Or a person who knows nothing about Islam, they can just repeat after you. That's not enough. You have to meet the conditions. And in order for you to meet the conditions, you first got to know them, right? So the first condition that we went over was, anybody? Knowledge, mashallah. MashaAllah, may Allah reward you. First condition was knowledge. Knowledge of La ilaha illallah, and that concept of knowledge of what La ilaha illallah means has been perfected in Tawheed, which is what we went over in the first class. The three categories of Tawheed: Al-Rububiyyah, Al-Uluhiyyah, Al-Asma wa Sifat. To believe in Allah's lordship, to believe in Allah's, to worship Allah alone, and the unification of Allah's names and attributes. And then the second condition of La ilaha illallah was yaqeen. And these go hand in hand, ilm and yaqeen, knowledge and certainty. In fact, the main reason that I find that young people leave Islam, again, I'm going to repeat this stat until we get tired of hearing it. 23% of Muslims born in America, by the time they become adults, they no longer associate with Islam. First is the lack of knowledge. Second is a lack of action or practice. And that practice, or that lack of practice, is even worse when you hang around people who don't practice. Because you lose certainty, depending on who you hang around. The wrong friends will increase doubt in your heart, while the right friends will make you more certain that La ilaha illallah has to be the truth. So the first two conditions were knowledge and certainty, ilm and yaqeen. And I said the conditions kind of go two by two, like in Surah Al-Takathur. Kalla law ta'lamuna ilm al-yaqeen, but only if you knew with a certainty of knowledge. The next two conditions is what we're going to go over tonight, inshallah. And these also go hand in hand. The third condition of La ilaha illallah, after knowledge and certainty, is qabul, or acceptance. To accept La ilaha illallah in your life as being true. Accepting La ilaha illallah, the implications of it with your tongue, with your heart, and with your actions. This belief results from failing to accept La ilaha illallah and its implications. So it's not enough just to know what it means and to be certain of it. You have to also accept. Some people know what La ilaha illallah means. They're sure of it, 100%, but they don't accept it in their lives. For two reasons that I want to point out tonight. There's two main reasons why people don't accept La ilaha illallah, even though they have the knowledge of it and they're certain of that knowledge. There's two main reasons that I want to go over as to why people do not accept after having knowledge and certainty of La ilaha illallah. First, arrogance and pride. You remember Shaitan, as Iblis, he worshipped Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for 70,000 years, some scholars say. Iblis worshipped Allah for 70,000 years, and some even say more than that. He was in prostration, some say for 1,000 years alone, Iblis was in prostration, worshiping Allah. But when Allah gave the angels the command to bow down to Adam, what was Iblis' problem? He was arrogant. Istikbar وَإِذْ قُلْنَا لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ اسْجُدُوا لِآدَمَ فَسَجَدُوا إِلَّا إِبْلِيسَ أَبَى وَاسْتَكْبَرَ وَكَانَ مِنَ الْكَافِرِينَ. When Allah said to the angels, prostrate to Adam, they all did except Iblis. He was arrogant. He had too much pride. He said, I'm better than him. خَلَقَتَنِي مِن نَارٍ وَخَلَقَتَهُ مِن طِينٍ. You created me from fire. He's just dust or dirt. Why should I bow down to him? And that's the problem. Don't you have some friends, no matter how much you tell them, they know Islam is true. I'm talking about Muslims here, or people who say they're Muslim. They know Islam is true, no doubt. No certainty. Certainty in their heart, no doubt. But they don't accept because they're arrogant. Their pride gets in the way. And whatever you tell them, it goes in one ear and out the other. Pride and arrogance. Pride and arrogance brings people to disbelief. Nuh alayhi salam preached to his people for 900 years about one thing, La ilaha illallah, worship Allah alone. But his people also had pride. And so to Nuh, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِنِّي كُلَّمَا دَعَوْتُهُمْ. And every time I give them da'wah, Nuh says, every time that I give them da'wah, لِتَغْفِرَ لَهُمْ, so that Allah can have mercy and forgive them, جَعَلُوا أَصَابِعَهُمْ فِي آذَانِهِمْ. They put their hands in their ears and they don't listen. This is pride, this is arrogance. وَاسْتَغْشَوْا ثِيَابَهُمْ وَأَصَرُّوا وَاسْتَكْبَرُوا اسْتِكْبَارًا. They put their finger in their ears, covered themselves with their garments, persisted, and they were arrogant. And arrogance and pride, eventually it leads to sin. Because you don't want to listen to the advice that your brother or your sister gave you. And you're prideful and you're arrogant. You're like, nah, I'm better than that. I ain't got to do that. Why I got to do that? That's like for them. And this pride and arrogance is something that we all have to deal with within ourselves. It's our main enemy. Our nafs al-amara bisu. The self that overwhelmingly commands a person to do sin. That's where that pride and arrogance comes from. And shaitan is in constant communication with your lower self, with your carnal desires. Once you give in to your inclination, that's your pride taking over. Why I got to do this? Why I got to do that? Whenever you feel like disobeying Allah, understand that it's just your own pride and arrogance. And as long as that's in control of you, you can never ultimately submit to La ilaha illallah. You can't. You can't. As long as that pride is in you. And eventually it's going to lead to sin. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Baqarah, and it was said to them, fear Allah. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُ اتَّقِ اللَّهَ أَخَذَتْهُ الْعِزَّةُ. When it was said to him, fear Allah, pride in the sin takes hold of him. Sufficient for him is hellfire, and how wretched is a resting place. You know, when you accept Islam wholeheartedly, you can't pick and choose what you want of it, regardless of what the society says. Now, this oftentimes will make you feel like an outcast or an extremist, or it may be something taboo. Regardless of what society says, we Muslims first. We don't go by the morality of society. It changes. Today's one thing that 50 years ago, if women wore a skirt above their knees, that was considered to be immoral. Today, you can basically go outside naked and nobody won't blink an eye. We don't go off of the morality of society. Rather, it's society that has to fit into the morality of Islam. We accept Islam without taking some and leave. We got to take it all. And there's something for each and every one of us that's difficult to accept. I had a lot of things that was just a hard pill for me to swallow about Islam. Really? You can't do that? Every one of us has something which is difficult for us to accept in Islam. Every one of us. Every single one of us has something which is difficult. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warns us about accepting some and leaving others. leaving off other parts. أفتؤمنون ببعض الكتاب وتكفرون ببعض. Do you believe in some of the book and then disbelieve in the other part of it? You got to accept Islam wholeheartedly. يا أيها الذين آمنوا ادخلوا في السلم كافة. Oh, you who believe, enter into Islam wholeheartedly, completely. When you accept Islam, you got to accept everything, regardless of what your friends say, regardless of what society says. Islam is how we live our life. We accept it wholeheartedly. And we have to take note of this, unapologetically Muslim. We don't have to apologize for our deen. I'm sorry, brothers and sisters. And this is one of the major reasons that I see that young people leave Islam. This is reason number 4. Reason number 1 is a lack of knowledge. Reason number 2 is a lack of practice. Reason number 3 is the friends that they hang around. Reason number 4 is that they're ashamed to be Muslim. I've experienced that. Wallahi, I have. You know, I'm gonna go off on a little personal rant here. You know, they say the best part of the class is when I give part of my personal story. May Allah forgive me if I've made any sins or if this influences people the wrong way. I'm not trying to glorify anything that I've done or mistakes that I've made. I'm just trying to let you all know that I've been there and that there's a way back to Allah. All you have to do is take the first step. You know, they used to call me Mo back where I'm from. Call me Mo. Maybe call me Money Mo. All of us got a name. You know, you go to school, and I used to think if I tell people my name is Muhammad, somehow that's gonna, you know, I'm gonna fit in as well. I'm talking to the brothers here because the sisters, they visibly Muslim. You know, they got a different struggle. This might exist as well in some instances. You know, some sisters may feel like if they go on an interview, you know, presenting themselves a certain way, maybe it's more likely they get the job. Something like that used to exist for me until I accepted Islam wholeheartedly. Whatever it comes with. Said, I'm not Mo no more. I'm Muhammad. You know, some guys named Suleiman, they say I'm Sal. Abu Bakr, they say I'm Bakar. Bakar, man, come on, man. Bakar. Be proud of who you are. You Muslim, why we gotta apologize to be Muslim? Don't you know so many people have fought for the right for you to be Muslim in this country? I'm talking about blood, sweat, and tears. And here we are apologizing that we Muslim. Oh no, I don't want to, you know. I used to think, I was on the phone like trying to make sales, and I would say my name. I would think that if I say Muhammad, then I might not get as many sales. Because they'd probably be like, whatever sale you missed for accepting Islam wholeheartedly, wallahi, you didn't need that sale. I want to tell you the story of Muhammad Ali, my favorite boxer of all time. Everybody know Muhammad Ali, right? Muhammad Ali Clyde. When I went overseas, they always called him Muhammad Ali Clyde. And I was like, what do they mean? They mean his name Cassius Clay. They say Clyde. Muhammad Ali Clyde. He sacrificed, he accepted Islam wholeheartedly, whatever it came with. Opposition to the war in Vietnam, when that meant him losing his heavyweight belt and going to jail, I don't care. I accept Islam wholeheartedly. My name is Muhammad, not Cassius Clay. So one of his opponents, right, when he first accepted Islam, refused to call him Muhammad. We running from the name, he was running to it. One of his opponents refused to call him Muhammad. He said, I'm going to call you what your mother called you. And every press conference, he said Cassius. And he knew that made him upset. So he was kind of like antagonizing him by calling him Cassius. So they got into the ring eventually. And Muhammad Ali was playing with him. He knew he could have knocked him out. But with every punch, he took it slow on him. Every punch, he said, what's my name? What's my name? What's my name? That's somebody who accepted Islam wholeheartedly. He fought literally for us to be proud to say that our name is Muhammad. And you know, now when I say my name, I say it with that extra hat, Muhammad. Abdullah, I hit him with that. You know what I mean? And if they don't say it right, I correct them. I'm Muslim. Why do I have to be afraid? Why do I have to apologize? The fourth reason that I see that young people leave Islam is because they're ashamed to be Muslim. Allah remove that shame from our hearts. We're strangers in this land. We know that. Accept it. Accept it. Being ashamed or afraid to be Muslim, to accept Islam. Some of it is fear. You know, I don't want to minimize the fact that being Muslim in certain situations, and I'm speaking specifically to the sisters here, you brothers, y'all got to toughen up, tighten up. You might have to fight for your deen, hey. But sisters, I understand. They got a whole different struggle when it comes to accepting Islam. Visibly Muslim. Fighting jihad more than we do, because, you know, we can blend in. Blend in. I know some brothers got like 2 names. They Jason and Jamal, you know. Sometimes it's, you know, you blend in. You don't got to wear no kufi. You just look like, you know. But sisters, y'all are much more courageous than brothers. Y'all got heart. Your Islam is visible. And oftentimes you refuse to give in to the temptations, to the peer pressure. You could just remove it. And I know that's a struggle that you all deal with. And I'm not here to act like I'm some type of authority and understanding that struggle. I'm sympathizing with you right now because I can never understand, and we can never understand what it's like to be a sister. That hijab is, woo, that's a battle. Accepting Islam for them wholeheartedly goes a little bit deeper than just a superficial. For us, it's on the outside. Accepting it in our body, in our actions, and who we are. But for them, it goes a lot deeper than that because they always look like they're Muslim. And when you look like you're Muslim, wallahi, it's a protection for you. I wear mine on purpose now. I don't think y'all probably never even seen on my head. I took off my kufi the other day. They didn't know I was bald. I always wear my kufi because it's a protection. When I wear my kufi and I go to the corner store by my house, don't nobody try to sell me no weed. They were like, nah, we ain't gonna mess with him. They don't try to sell me nothing. They don't ask me no crazy questions. No women don't be coming up to me. I'm protected. It's a protection for you brothers and sisters. Sisters, no, it's a protection for you brothers. To be visibly Muslim, to be Muslim in your name and who you are and everything that you do. Accept Islam wholeheartedly, whatever the consequences. That's Muhammad Ali. And so that's the third condition of La ilaha illallah, is to accept Islam. And when you accept Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens your heart. And if you don't accept Islam, Allah puts a seal over the heart of those who are arrogant, because that's the only reason you don't accept. If you have knowledge and you're certain of that knowledge, you got to check. Are you arrogant? What's the reason? You're arrogant. You think that you're too good for the kufi. Not saying that that's the only way to accept Islam. Don't minimize it to that. I'm just giving a small example. Whatever exists in your life, I want you to internalize this. Is it because of your arrogance that you don't accept Islam wholeheartedly? Whether that be at your school, at your job, in your friend circle, why are you hiding Islam? Are you arrogant? And if you are, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, thus does Allah seal over every heart the arrogant person. The arrogant person, Allah seals your hearts. And He'll make it so that you can't see the signs. You remember, it's the signs that give you that certainty. The signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are everywhere around us to give us that certainty that La ilaha illallah must be true. But when we're arrogant, Allah puts a seal over our hearts so that we can't even realize the signs. May Allah protect us from arrogance. And allow us to be humble and submissive, because that's the fourth condition of La ilaha illallah. The fourth condition of La ilaha illallah is inqiyad, or submission. to submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَأَنِيبُوا إِلَىٰ رَبِّكُمْ وَأَسْلِمُوا لَهُ مِن قَبْلِ أَن يَأْتِيَكُمُ الْعَذَابَ ثُمَّ لَا تُنصَرُونَ. And return to your Lord and submit to Him before the punishment comes. Submission, in fact, is the culmination of these 7 conditions. It's right smack dab in the middle. You got 3 before it, and you got 3 after it. Submission is right smack dab in the middle, but it's actually a culmination of all 7 conditions. This is the culmination. Because eventually what we want to do is submit to Allah. Is submit to the commandments of Allah, the decree of Allah, the destiny of Allah, the will of Allah. Everything that Allah wants us to do, we want to submit to it. That's the ultimate goal. The eventual goal of these 7 conditions is to submit. I think we got the top there? Yeah, mashallah. You called me like, I was like, hold on, man. Waiting for that. So that's the questions, right? Yeah. That's the questions one, yeah. So if you have questions, scan the QR code. We're going to do a Q&A session, inshallah. Scan the QR code if you have any questions, any clarity you need on a specific point. I'll try to save about 10 minutes to go over that, inshallah. Questions and answers. Scan the QR code. And then in a few minutes, we'll put up the QR code for the lecture itself, where you can register and then you'll receive the notes. Because everything that I'm speaking of, the hadiths and the Quran verses, they're all compiled into notes that you can reflect on. So here we go at submission. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna deena inda Allah Islam, that the way of life with Allah is Islam. The meaning of Islam is actually submission. It's the way of peace through submission. Salama has 2 meanings, submission and peace. A Muslim is one who submits to the will of Allah, which is why we call Jesus Muslim. People say that Jesus was Muslim, or we as Muslims, we say Jesus was Muslim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran that Abraham was Muslim. All of the prophets were Muslim. Why? Because they submitted their will to the will of Allah. So submission is what actually brings you into the fold of Islam. It's not enough to have knowledge. It's not enough to be certain of that knowledge. It's not even enough to accept it in your life. You have to submit to it. You might accept the fact that you're Muslim, but have you submitted to the fact that you're Muslim? That comes with action. You got to submit to that one verse or that one hadith that you don't particularly like. You got to submit to it. It's from Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You got to deal with that. Yeah, you accept it, but it's not enough to accept it if you're not going to submit to it. And once you submit to La ilaha illallah, then you enter the fold of Islam, which is why I said submission is perfectly placed in the middle, the 4th condition. Because the first 3 bring you to submission, and the next 3 will judge your submission to see if you really about what you say you about. Submission is perfectly placed in the middle. Brothers and sisters, Islam is submission. And a Muslim is one who submits to La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. But this submission will not be left alone. You'll be tested. And that's what the next 3 conditions are about. The test of that submission. The test of your Islam. Accepting Islam and submitting to it is the pinnacle of being Muslim. Of being Muslim. Once you have knowledge and you're certain of that knowledge, you put yourself in the right company, you keep the right friends, you hang in the right circles, then you accept Islam wholeheartedly in your life, every part of it, the parts that you like and the parts that you're not so fond of. And we all have parts of Islam that are difficult for us to accept. Every one of us does. Something that's difficult for us to swallow. We have to deal with that and submit to it regardless, because it is only through that submission that we can wholeheartedly say La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah and actually mean it. And actually mean it. And actually mean it. I find that so many young people, especially when I was growing up, had a problem with acceptance and submitting. Acceptance and submitting. You know, we knew we was Muslim, and this is where I think most of us fall. We have a trouble accepting and submitting. We know me Muslim, and that's the same thing that hypocrites have a problem with. It's not that they don't believe in Allah. It's not that Shaitan doesn't believe. Iblis, like I said, he believes in Allah, no doubt. He knows, he worships Allah. He just can't accept. Why? Because he's prideful and he's arrogant and he can't submit because of that pride and arrogance. It's not that hypocrites don't believe in Allah. They believe in Allah, but they doubt. They doubt. They don't submit. They can't accept. They have pride. They have arrogance. And that's where we have to judge ourselves right now, right here. We have to question ourselves. Are we hypocrites? Or are we truthful to La ilaha illallah? Are our intentions sincere? Are we here in this masjid because we want to be here and we're seeking knowledge so that we can better ourselves? Or did our parents make us come here? Because at some point, each and every one of us has to accept and submit to La ilaha illallah on our own, on ourselves. For yourself, your parent ain't going to be able to keep you into this deen forever. Allah is the only one who guides. No matter what you tell them, parents, no matter how you raise them, Allah guides. Allah is the final guide. Noah preached to his people for 900 years. And even though he wanted to give them good advice, he says in the Quran, even though I want to give you sincere advice, Allah is the one who guides at the end of the day. At the end of the day, each and every one of us has to accept Islam for ourselves. So I'm going to leave you with this, brothers and sisters. Key takeaways for the day. 23% of Muslims born in America, by the time they become adults, they no longer associate with Islam. The number one reason that I found in my studies, in my surveys, they have a lack of knowledge. Lack of knowledge and lack of application. They don't practice Islam. And that only exacerbates the problem when they have bad friends or they hang around people. They hang around the wrong crowd. So I found that to be the third issue that young people have, especially when it comes to leaving Islam. They hang around the wrong people. And then today, we find that a lot of young people are ashamed to be Muslim. They're ashamed because they don't have confidence, because of the pressures of society, peer pressures in school, which is why last week we had the MSA in here that represented high schools. I'm so happy for that organization and that it's established and that they're working towards bringing more MSAs in high schools, because that's where it really starts. For those of you who have graduated high school or are in high school, I remember vividly the first day that I walked into school. I remember vividly the first day I walked into school. That's the day I became Mo. Before that, I was Muhammad. But that pressure of being Muslim, of accepting Islam, in these circumstances that we find ourselves in, is extreme. And for those who don't have that experience, just ask any one of these young people who go to a public school where there's a few Muslims. It's hard. It's hard. Shame to be Muslim. It's a real thing. But I want to give you that courage. I want to let you know that people came before you who fought so that you wouldn't have to be ashamed. You be proud to be Muslim, regardless of what the outcome is. Regardless of the consequence, if you don't get the job, if you don't make the sale, if you don't get into that group of friends, you don't get accepted or invited with, it don't matter. Accept Islam wholeheartedly. Don't be ashamed to be Muslim. Brothers, don't have no fear in your deen. Be strong. Sisters, I understand that you're in a different situation than men and we are in. but also be strong, be fearless, represent Islam wholeheartedly with conviction. So that way the next generation of girls coming in after you feels more comfortable wearing their abaya or hijab or dressing visibly like a Muslim. You're making a sacrifice, and inshallah, Allah will reward you for that sacrifice. Adults, parents, accept Islam wholeheartedly. There's some things about Islam that every single one of us can reflect on that we have trouble accepting. Let's all accept Islam and not be ashamed to be Muslim. Unapologetically Muslim. We have rights in this country. Freedom of religion. We can practice how we want. Take advantage of that. Stop apologizing for being Muslim. I'm not apologizing no more. I'm Muslim. I'm Muhammad Abdullah. And if you don't know how to say it, I'll teach you. Don't worry. You know, I'll teach you what it means. I'll teach you who Muhammad is, where he comes from, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I'll tell you to say peace and blessings be upon him, and you'll tell me why, and I'll explain why. That's our job, to convey the message of Islam by accepting it. That's the best da'wah that you can give, is just be Muslim. Just be Muslim. That's acceptance and submitting. The best da'wah that you can give is just being Muslim. How many people have asked you about Islam just based on your character? Man, are you Muslim? Like, really? People should ask you about Islam just based on your behavior, based on the fact that you've accepted and submitted to the rules of Allah, and it reflects in your action and your character. People should be interested about Islam just by knowing you. Sometimes you're the only Muslim that people know. I'm gonna leave you with this. My grandfather, he died at the age of 89. Once my father, Allah yarhamhu, right? I didn't finish the story yet, because you didn't know if he's Muslim or not. But you already beat me to the punch. So my father converted to Islam. My grandfather didn't have a problem with it because my father was a knucklehead being converted. So he was like, oh, at least you're doing something good. Even though my grandfather was a Christian Baptist. My father would give him dawah every day for 30 years. He never accepted Islam. One day, my grandfather went to the church. And in the church, they told him, they were speaking about Muslims. And they said, you guys don't need to be worshiping Muhammad like Muslims do. And my grandfather said, hold on, Tommy. My son been telling me that Muslims worship one God for 30 years. And that Muhammad is his messenger. Here you go telling me that they worship Muhammad. One of y'all lying. And I believe my son. And my grandfather became Muslim at the age of 89, 2 years before he died. Allah yarhamhu. Just be Muslim. For people who are dealing with difficult situations in their family, where their family is not Muslim, just be Muslim. Just be Muslim. Just be steadfast and firm and submit. When you go around them, don't eat no pork. I can't eat the meat. I can't drink that. Once they see that resiliency and that commitment, that's why so many people are coming to Islam right now, because Palestinians have accepted and submitted to La ilaha illallah. That's the most powerful tool of da'wah that we can have. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك ونستغفرك ونتوب إليك. We ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the knowledge of La ilaha illallah. Allow us to be certain of it. Allow us to accept it wholeheartedly in our hearts, and allow it to reflect in our behavior and character. Allow us to submit to La ilaha illallah, regardless of the consequences in the face of tyranny and adversity and oppression. Ya Allah, allow us to submit to La ilaha illallah. Muhammadur Rasulullah. Oh Allah, protect us and guide us and give us the best in this life and the best in the next life, and protect us from the torment of the fire. Oh Allah, our brothers and sisters who are struggling all across the world, Ya Allah, give them shifa, give them healing, give them victory over their oppressors, give them guidance and protection, give them rizq, give them sustenance, Ya Allah, and make a way out for them. Even though a way out may seem impossible, Ya Allah, make a way out for them. For our brothers and sisters in Gaza, Ya Allah, give them victory. Make them steadfast and firm, Ya Allah. Our brothers and sisters in Philistine, Ya Allah, give them victory over the oppressors. Ya Allah, our brothers and sisters in Sudan, Ya Allah, give them some sustenance, the sustenance that they need to provide for themselves and their families so they can continue to live and be dutiful worshipers of you, Ya Allah. Our brothers and sisters in Yemen and in Libya and in Somalia and in Lebanon and in Bangladesh and in Pakistan and in Afghanistan. Ya Allah, our brothers and sisters right here in Stop 6 Fort Worth, Ya Allah, give them what they need, Ya Allah. We got brothers and sisters right here. We go and we feed homeless. You'd be surprised how many Muslims say, I was Muslim. I was Muslim right here. We can't forget our brothers and sisters right next door in our dua. Ya Allah, give our neighbors right here in Fort Worth, give them healing, give them sustenance, give them provisions. Ya Allah, protect us all and keep us away from the fire. Inshallah, we're going to open it up for questions, and then we're going to have a representative of PYM come forth. Don't forget, we're going to have the bake sale right after. And we got, for those of you who came late, you're going to have to be second on the biryani line. We got free biryani tonight. You didn't hear that, so you got to be second. Anyway, we got a bake sale. Buy, give. PYM is an organization that has been doing great works in the community. Do we have any questions? Do we have any questions from the QR code? Can you check if we have any questions from the QR code? I know we do. So we'll just take some questions. Matter of fact, I got next. Yes, you can send Ali up with the phone to give me the access to the questions. Then we will conclude with a short message from PYM. And then next week, you don't want to miss next week's class. Next week is some conditions that, they're hard hitting, inshallah. We'll continue next week with the fifth and sixth conditions. And then we'll have a dedicated class for the seventh condition, and then we'll do a review. And inshallah, at the end of this 6-week series, we're all going to take our shahada together, knowing the conditions. You guys got to know the conditions. What's condition number 1? Number 2? Number 3? Number 4? MashaAllah.